Hey y'all, Rick Sky here. Welcome back to another live show, Timepieces for Tomorrow. This is Timepieces for Tomorrow, episode 2. And today I'm wearing the 114060. So, as I mentioned during my first live show for Timepieces for Tomorrow, my goal with this is to bring a lot of quality and unfiltered education to the wristwatch arena, because wristwatches are something it's greenfield content, meaning it's probably never going to go out of style. Something that was purchased 100 years ago may be as relevant today as it was then. So it's a really cool hobby. There's a lot of complexities associated with it. There's an abundance of bad information out there for watch collectors. So for this particular show, and by the way, if you want to be a live guest, and I'm going to pop up I'm going to have a card I can flash up and share this with you, but I'll go ahead and read it off for now. If you'd like to be considered as a live guest for an upcoming Timepieces for Tomorrow live show, that email address is, let's see, I got to check my notes here. I got tons of things here. So it's live show at timepiecesfortomorrow.com. Just drop me an email if you'd like to be considered as a live guest, and tell me why you'd want to. What's your background in wristwatches? Pitch yourself to me. And then also, if you've got a review, maybe it's a wristwatch collection you have, maybe it's a watch that you want to have reviewed, send an email to review@timepiecesfortomorrow.com. So within this live episode, and by the way, this is a live show. If you're watching this at approximately 1:05 p.m., New York City time. That's 1:05 p.m. East Coast time in the United States of America. Anything you type, I can see in real time. Also, super chats are highly encouraged. You can choose to super chat, again, not required. But if you want to, it's a great way to support the channel. You can find the super chat icon within the live chat area. Also got my merchandise up. You can see at the top of the chat, you'll see the Timepieces for Tomorrow stickers. I've also got coffee mugs. I've got T-shirts. I've got all kinds of cool stuff. So check out the merchandise. But one of the mistakes that a lot of people make, when they're buying their first watch, is they fall victim to the dealer. Now, not all the authorized dealers have ill intent, but they're well versed enough to know when someone walks into their authorized dealer, the types of questions they can ask in a friendly fashion, but in reality, what they may be doing is, number one, filling out the buyers or the would-be buyers' knowledge when it comes to wristwatches, and also filling out their budget. So a mistake that a lot of first-time watch buyers make, they go into that authorized dealer without having performed any of their own due diligence, meaning that they go in there, they see a lot of cool things, but they really don't know what they're buying. And, they may limit their decision to the price, or the price may heavily dictate that first-time watch buyer's decision. And that can be painful, because what can end up happening is that, as that potential watch collector, if they get involved, if they become really deeply connected with the hobby, and then they realize, man, the first thing I bought, number one, I spent too much, and number two, it's not resellable. Number three, it's just not, it doesn't have any positive characteristics from a collector's point of view, or just a pure functional point of view. And without bad-mouthing any of the manufacturers, I'm going to go out there and just kind of give you an example. So, if you go into an authorized dealer, maybe it's a dealer that sells Omega, they sell Breitling, they sell Tag Heuer, and then they sell some other brands. Now, it's the other brands that often, they try to steer the buyer towards. And, some of them may be decent, but, a lot of those brands have what's called fake heritage created. So, there's some brands, they may look cool, they may feel good on the wrist, they may, look very similar to some of the top tier manufacturers, but they have no history. It's just a brand that's been created for the purpose of selling a material thing. And the problem with that is that although it may look good, it may feel good, the resale's not there. The just a watch. Now, if you're collecting timepieces, you're looking at a bunch of different things. Now, for a first-time watch buyer, should be concerned with, price is important, but, it's not something where you want to go out and say, okay, well, this is what I got now, this is what I'm going to get. My best advice for the first-time watch buyer is to do your research online. And one of the things that I've found, obviously YouTube, where you're watching this live show, one of the things that I've found is the, just the abundance of knowledge that is openly and freely shared out there. Now, some people don't share their wristwatch knowledge in a free fashion, but a lot of people do. So if you go out online, go on YouTube, you can kind of get an idea for what is popular, at least at that point in time. So, great way to start your research. Another great site, and site that I really enjoy going to, is Chrono24, CHRONO24.com. Chrono24 is a great site because you can go through and you can sort watches by brand, by type, by, model. In the watch world, they call it reference. You can sort by a bunch of different criteria, including price. And it's a great way to screen for the wristwatches that you might be interested in before you make that first purchase at an authorized dealer. And, why do I keep saying authorized dealer? Well, the thing is, this is a cord for a camera that's coming, so that ought to be cool when that arrives. But I keep mentioning authorized dealer because for your first purchase, I would strongly steer anyone towards going through an authorized dealer. The reason being is that if you purchase through an authorized dealer, there's often an international warranty. You can wear that watch, you can, as long as you don't abuse it, and as long as you don't void the warranty in any way, you can confidently wear it. And if something messes up, you'll probably be protected by an international warranty for a certain amount of time. Some of those warranties are a few years. And a lot of the manufacturers now, they've made their warranties even longer. I know I got a Breitling Super Avenger, and it, even though it had stated water resistance, it was a chronograph and a chronometer. Chronometer, meaning, COSC certified timepiece. Chronograph, basically think of that as a stopwatch. It's got the pushers. So what happened, even though that Super Avenger Breitling had stated water resistance, it leaked. But because of the international warranty, I was able to send it back to Breitling and get it serviced for free because it was covered by the warranty because I purchased it through an authorized dealer. Now, I'll never swim with that piece again. Could have been a very expensive lesson learned had I not purchased that through an authorized dealer. But since I did, and since I wasn't abusing it, I was using it as stated. I was only a few feet underwater. There's no reason that should have leaked. But, good rule of thumb, for your first time watch buyer, something you probably want to do, you probably want to stick with a highly water resistant piece. Something I would recommend. Again, budgets may vary, availability may vary, but, for someone just getting into watch collecting, maybe it's a one and done. I would say look at the Tudor Black Bay 58. And again, 58 is important because they also have a Tudor Black Bay that's significantly larger. I would highly steer you towards the Tudor Black Bay 58. At the time of filming this, they've got a blue and then they've got a black. And both of those are really desirable watches. You can swim with them. They can take a beating. Also, the Omega Seamaster. There's so many different Seamasters. I would probably stick with the Seamaster 300 series. They've got some of them now that have a heritage type look, a different bracelet, very nice. Actually, I like that bracelet better than the bracelet on the Omega Seamaster 300M blue wave dial that I have that doesn't taper. And a lot of collectors will say that a watch bracelet that tapers is just a more expensive look. Rolex Submariner is always going to be a good choice. I would definitely go with the no date, just the Submariner. That would be my recommendation. The reason being is that it's highly water resistant. It can take a lot of abuse, and you've got that dial symmetry. You don't have the date cyclops at the 3 o'clock position, that little piece of sapphire that sticks up on top of the sapphire crystal. It magnifies the date. So those would be some. And then also a bunch of good alternatives that you might consider. Oris, O-R-I-S, makes some great pieces that are highly capable. Your friend Mike, how's it going? Did you get your Black Bay 58 at an AD? Yes, I did. Yep. I got my Black Bay 58 at an authorized dealer. And actually, if you're looking for a good dealer, shoot me. Feel free to shoot me a message. You can just send an email to. Actually, I need to get a generic email set up at Timepieces for tomorrow. But if you do the live show at timepiecesfortomorrow.com, that email will get to me, and I'll be happy to share my authorized dealer contact with you. Really good people, authorized Tudor dealer. Now, they don't have Rolex, at least at this point in time, but they got Tudor. So I would highly recommend them. Yeah, the Black Bay. See, I got messages coming in, man. I got messages. Hold on. Let's see here what we got. Okay. What do I have? Here we go. Okay. Yeah, so the Black Bay 58 I highly recommend. Also from Breitling, a really good piece. If you want something that's wear anywhere, looks nice, feels nice, swim with it, wear it anywhere. The Super Ocean Heritage 2. Now, I say Super Ocean Heritage 2 because the Heritage 2 has a ceramic bezel. The Super Ocean Heritage, which was discontinued, just has an aluminum bezel. Again, matter of personal preference. I actually prefer the ceramic bezel because it probably won't fade, it probably won't crack, it probably won't scratch. I mean, unless you hit it on something really hard and pointed, and it's probably not going to crack. And I like aluminum bezels. Speaking of your friend Mike in the chat right now, the Black Bay 58 that you just mentioned, it does have an aluminum bezel. And it makes me wonder if Tudor's ever going to release, curiously enough, Tudor in their Tudor Pelagos has a matte ceramic bezel, but that's a titanium case. And, whether you like titanium or not, personal preference, I personally do not wear titanium watches. So the fact that it's titanium just made me mark the Pelagos off of my list. But it does have a matte ceramic bezel. So that's really cool. I wish they would move the ceramic bezel to the to the Black Bay 58 line. I'd really love to see a Black Bay 58 GMT with a ceramic bezel. Think about how cool that would be. We got Psychofu. How do you feel about the Squally Matic? Well, yeah. Speaking of that, I think that would be a great question for another YouTube channel, and I'll flash the YouTube card up here. Ask Archie Luxury, Archibald Chesterfield III, what he thinks about Squally. I think he would have get some good feedback. Honestly, I've never owned a Squally, so I can't comment. I don't know. Your friend Mike says, thanks, I'm in the Carolinas. Do you know your AD will ship a Tudor? Also, like the black Super Ocean on a rubber strap for a daily watch. Yeah, the Super Ocean. Shoot me an email and I'll share their contact info with them. I'll share their contact info with you, and feel free to reach out to them and tell them that. Be sure to tell them that Iric Sky's Adventure Channel sent you their way. I'd really appreciate that. Yeah, the Super Ocean, the Breitling Super Ocean on a rubber strap is a really great daily watch. It really is. I like it on the shark mesh because that shark mesh, it's probably one of the, it's as comfortable, if not more comfortable than the Oyster bracelet that I have on this Submariner. So, yeah, that Breitling really did a phenomenal job with the Super Ocean, whether you wear it on rubber or, the shark mesh bracelet. I don't think I would like it on any sort of other material, leather or anything, because I want to swim with it. But yeah, that's a fantastic. Just curious, what size do you like? I went with the 42, even though I tried on the 44, and the 44 would have been fine as well. I think 46 was just a little bit too big, but I don't know. I like to stick between 39 and 42 millimeters. There are some exceptions. Panerai, and then when you get up in the the Breitling Super Avenger, which I think is like a 47 millimeter. But So that brings up another interesting point. For your first time watch buyer, go to that authorized dealer and try on various different sizes. But what I would steer you to do, and again, your wrist size, if you've got a really big wrist or a really small wrist, I like the 42 mil as well. Most people, unless you got a really small or really large wrist, I would encourage you to go in and try on 39 mil all the way up to 42 mil. That's talking about the size of the wristwatch. And you're probably going to find that somewhere between, probably around 40 is probably perfect. This is 40 millimeters right here. But, again, matter of personal preference. If you want a watch that looks large on your wrist, then even if you've got a smaller wrist, you may exceed 44 millimeters, and that may be what you want to do. That may be the wrist presence that you're going for. But I think what you'll find, and, I've done that when I was starting out. Obviously started out with the Omega Seamaster 300M with the Blue Wave dial pre-coaxial, which is pretty much a perfect fit. But, then I stepped up and went something enormous with the Breitling Super Avenger, which is about a 47 millimeter watch. It felt like I remember I was going through the airport in Puerto Rico, and they make you take stuff off. So I had to take it off, and the customs guy, he's like, "Man, this is a boat anchor." And I mean, I didn't think about it at the time, but that's a pretty true statement. I mean, that 47 millimeters is a huge watch. Even if you've got a huge wrist, that's a watch that's really going to have a commanding wrist presence. And I like it, and it fits great because Breitling does a really good job with the wearability of their pieces, the way they do the case back, this, that, and the other. It feels great on your wrist, but it's definitely huge, and it definitely stands out. So if for a first-time watch buyer, I think that if most people, again, go to the authorized dealer, try them all on, but most people are probably going to find 39 millimeter up to 42 millimeters is probably going to be the perfect range. You go below that, it's probably going to start to look small. You go above 42, then it's going to start to look, noticeably large. So, just a few tips. But your friend Mike, I have a 7.5 inch wrist. That's what I've got the same size. I currently have the Seamaster 42 millimeter, and it's probably the largest. I think I should go with the 50 millimeter lug to lug. Yeah, I've got a Ulysses Nardin Maxi Marine Diver that's a 42.7, and it wears acceptably, a good size. I mean, it is a little bit larger, but it's not too large. Now the Panerai is probably about the largest that I'll go, and that's a 44 mil. It's the PAM 112. And, it's one of those. Here's the thing. There's certain watches that are meant to be large, that are meant to wear large. And, for example, if you got a Breitling and you got something like a 38 millimeter offering, it's probably going to look stupid. I mean, Breitlings are meant to be large. And I would even go to say that if which they don't, at least currently, if they offered that Super Ocean Heritage 2 in a 40 mil, that 40 mil would likely be too small or perceived as too small just because it's a Breitling. But again, that's personal opinion there. Yeah, I mean, there's tons of great options out there, and what I really want to do is just get the wristwatch community. Hold on one second. Yeah, what I really want to do is just get the wristwatch community together and chat about, your experiences, whether positive or negative. And, I'll go ahead and tell you the biggest mistake that I made, and fortunately I was able to get out of it without a loss. But the biggest mistake I made was buying and again, no bad blood towards the brand, but I'm just going to tell you my experience. It was a Baume & Mercier Cosima Executive, looked really nice, had a nice leather strap, had a deployant clasp, worked great, looked great, but, it kind of stops there. Then I realized the movement wasn't that high quality. When I really realized that it was a, lower quality piece, it it looked high end, but it wasn't. It's when I came close to a magnetic field, and that Baume & Mercier Cosima Executive became magnetized. So actually, I was able to demagnetize it myself. I got a demagnetizer and demagnetized it, and then it kept acceptable time after that. But that was just an example of the type of quality that you probably don't get with some of the lower tier watch brands. The fact that it became magnetized. I mean, you're dealing with most of your current reference Rolex and Omega. They're probably going to have anti-magnetic hairsprings. They're going to have components that make those pieces less susceptible to falling victim to magnetic fields. So just a few things that you don't really realize there. So I replaced that Cosima Executive Baume & Mercier with the Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Control. Now that's a similar style of dress watch, but obviously Jaeger-LeCoultre is a lot better than the Cosima Executive. And something you may not know about Jaeger-LeCoultre is that they do, it's called the 1,000 Hours Master Control. So they don't submit their movements to the COSC. They do 1,000 hours of testing with that movement in that actual case, that case that you're purchasing when you purchase that watch. So really, a lot of attention to detail that Jaeger-LeCoultre puts into their pieces. So, if you're looking for a dress watch, man, I highly recommend them. For their sports watches, I would probably stick with Rolex Omega or Breitling instead. But for a dress watch, yeah, you can't beat Jaeger-LeCoultre. Your friend Mike, do you think it's a bit redundant to have a no-date sub and a Black Bay 58? JLC, nice. I don't think it's redundant at all. I've got a 114060 and then the Black Bay 58 blue. Now, if I had the sub and the Black Bay 58, I think that might be a little bit redundant because they're both black bezels. But I think the one, going to the Black Bay 58 blue, it's unique. Also, the Black Bay 58 blue, unlike the current reference Black Bay 58, the original Black Bay 58, it has fake patina, faux patina on the dial. A lot of people don't like that. So, that was another reason I went with the blue colored Black Bay 58. But I don't think it's redundant at all because both the Black Bay 58 is 39 millimeter. The sub, the reference that I have is 40. Now the current reference sub is 41 millimeters, but the Black Bay 58 wears like an old-timey Submariner. It's smaller on the wrist. The lugs aren't as wide. It doesn't have this maxi case design, this really large, commanding design. So they look completely different. I rotate them all the time. I think that I'll go as far as to say that I think the Black Bay 58 is actually more comfortable. With that said, the bracelet is not as adjustable as a subs bracelet. So, something to take into consideration there. But, I was able to adjust it perfectly for my 7.5-inch wrist. No complaints. But, yeah, the Submariner does have a better bracelet, especially with the glide lock, the current reference Submariners. But there would be nothing wrong with someone, having a Submariner and a Black Bay 58. The only cautionary word that I would throw out there would be, always get that Submariner first. Because if that's what you want, if you get that Tudor Black Bay 58 first, you're always going to be upset probably because you're like, man, I should have just saved up and gotten the Submariner. And it didn't used to be that big of a deal in the past. But recently, because of all the, and we'll talk about this in another live show, the perceived shortage of Rolex and the authorized dealers and the surging prices on the gray market being non-authorized dealers, people that are selling pre-owned, people that may have purchased from an authorized dealer and they never wore the watch, they never took the tags off and they're selling it. But, It used to not be that big of a deal, but today, and maybe even in the near future, it may hit a point to where Tudor is not looked at as the poor man's Rolex. It may hit that point, and actually, I think that Rolex is trying to position their Tudor brand, because see, Hans Wildorf was a guy that created. Hans Wildorf owns. It's a private trust, and it's Rolex and it's Tudor. And not to misquote Hans Wildorf, but it was something along the lines of he wanted to create a more cost-effective Rolex, and that's why he created Tudor. The old school Tudors, they had Rolex parts. They had the Rolex crown. They had several Rolex things. Now today's Tudor has completely separated itself from Rolex. So you got the Tudor shield or the Tudor rose. You don't see the Rolex logo on the watches. But what we have today is a more well-designed Tudor. Tudor went through some weird phases there the past few years. I mean, they were just releasing, not to sound hateful, but they were just releasing junk. I mean, they were releasing these references that just they didn't look good. But now what Tudor's doing, they're releasing what looks like, if you looked at the old reference Rolexes, the case sizes, the just the overall fit and finish. You're looking at Tudor today with the Black Bay 58. They've kind of brought that old style Rolex back to life. You're not seeing the ceramic bezels in the Black Bay 58 at least yet. They're a much more easily accessible price point for the Tudor, and it's kind of like getting a vintage style dive watch with current technology. That's what I tell everybody. It's not no. You're not buying the poor man's Rolex. You're getting the old style Rolex look with current technology that just doesn't say Rolex on it. And a lot of people care about that. I don't. When you're a collector, you don't care about the brand that's on the dial. You care about the quality. You care about the comfort. And we're going to get into that in more depth. We're going to have a ton of live shows. Your friend Mike, would you consider the Submariner date instead if you plan on getting a Black Bay 58? No, I wouldn't. And the reason I wouldn't get Submariner date, Submariner date has the date at the 3 o'clock position, which is fine. If Submariner, which they haven't, now a similar dive watch, I hit a total blank. The Sea Dweller. The Sea Dweller that was short-lived, they had one of those that didn't have the Cyclops on the sapphire. So you can look at the sapphire crystal, and there wasn't the Cyclops sticking up, the date magnifier. So it had a date, and it looked nice because it didn't have the Cyclops. However, having the date still messes with the symmetry of the dial. So even though I don't, and again, that's personal preference. Submariner date is a great watch. Don't get me wrong. If the Cyclops doesn't bother you, if the way that date messes up the symmetry on the dial doesn't bother you, go for the date. It's, it used to be in the past, people would say people got the Submariner without the date instead of the Submariner date because they didn't want to pay extra for the date. And that's just one of those goofy things. The people that aren't watch collectors kind of chuckle at. And then your friend Mike says, I like both Rolex and Tudors. I'm a military veteran, and the subs have always been part of the military community. And then we've got Nico here. Nico, yesterday Frederico Talks Watches stated in his video that the big date complications in the UN watches break and repairing ain't cheap. His company won't sell UNs with that complication anymore. The big date complications. That's interesting. Now my UN Ulysses Nardin, it's only got it's got the small seconds, and it's got a power reserve indicator and a date, but it doesn't have. It's not a. Let's put it. It's not a complicated Ulysses Nardin. So Do you have any comments? Nico says, do you have any comments on that? You have a lot of experience with at least one Ulysses Nardin. I know, and again, from personal experience, I've handled all the, all the high end, the Haute Horology Ulysses Nardin in the authorized dealers throughout the Caribbean. But again, I'm not a fan. It's personal preference. I'm not a fan of their, they've got some really complicated stuff. I'm not a fan of that in the Ulysses Nardin. I like the Maxi Marine Diver because it's a highly capable, very well constructed dive watch, but it's not a Seamaster. It's not a Submariner. So it's one of those dive watches that pretty much anywhere you go, unless you're in Russia, you're probably not going to run into anybody wearing a Ulysses Nardin Maxi Marine Diver. So, if you want something that's very well made, that's off the radar, I would say that Ulysses Nardin Maxi Marine Diver is a great, just a great choice. Now, again, the resale, if you wanted to sell or trade in the future, I mean, it's probably not going to appreciate like an Omega or a Rolex. But it's if you want something that's a solid piece, I mean, they're hard to beat. But again, I'm not a fan of their. Even if I had the money, I'm not a fan of their high horology pieces. It's just not. It's not my. If I'm going to get something like a dress watch or some kind of fancy, I'm going to be looking at Jaeger-LeCoultre, because that's kind of your, I look at Jaeger-LeCoultre as kind of the more, the more high-end dress watch. You wear that instead of a Rolex, it's like, okay, well, this guy knows watches. That's the nonverbal, of wearing a Jaeger-LeCoultre. The problem when you're dealing with, the thing with Ulysses Nardin, it's not an Audemars Piguet, it's not a Patek Philippe. They've got this big, nautical thing. They got the boat anchors all over them, which is cool if you're wearing it as a dive watch. But I mean, I don't know. Everybody's got their own thing. I would stick, if I'm going, like I said, if I'm going with something more complicated, I would go to Jaeger-LeCoultre. That's where I'd be looking if I was you, instead of Ulysses Nardin. But that's interesting you said that about, Frederico's video. That's interesting. So, yeah, man, we, keep it, my best advice for first-time watch collectors, keep it simple. Stick with the, just the brand. The manufacturer alone doesn't mean it's a great piece. I mean, these top-tier brands make garbage. I mean, there's garbage that Omega creates. There's garbage that Rolex creates. There's garbage that Breitling creates. Be sure before you make that purchase that you're purchasing something that's referred to as a core reference. Don't go out and get the obscure, brand new model or brand new reference from whatever watch manufacturer. Just because it's one of the top tier watch manufacturers doesn't mean that it's going to be a desirable piece. Now, in some situations, people may get something early on, and it may become the next big hot thing. So, you get in early and you're riding pretty because you got in on something before it was popular. But for the most part, watch collectors are going to want to stick with the core references from the respectable watch manufacturers. Because once you get, just because it says whatever brand doesn't mean it's desirable. And, Omega's one of those. Well, I wouldn't say Omega as much as, I think Breitling's one of those that's really been around the block. I mean, they've released so many different references, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, they got a lot of cool stuff. But with Breitling, for example, I'd be sticking with Navitimer. Navitimer's kind of dated now, but Navitimer's what put Breitling on the map. There's no doubt. With Breitling, the Navitimer, the Super Ocean Heritage or the Super Ocean Heritage 2, the Premier, which they just released. Now, that's an example of something that it was hated at first, but actually people were starting to like it. there's a possibility that some of the newer Breitling references are, possibly going to become popular in the future. But one of the things about Breitling is that apparently now the brand is owned by, I think it's owned by a bunch of investors. So that's created a lot of, it's kind of scared a lot of the collectors. Not saying it's a bad thing. They still make a great watch. I would say your safest bet today, just for something more easily accessible, I would stick on the high end. I would stick with the Rolex. The next tier, I would stick with Omega or Tudor. That would be where I would steer everyone on today's market. And the other thing is those brands, they're all, the parts are, obviously, ultimately you'd want to purchase from an authorized dealer and have a warranty. But, if you did trade or buy used on the gray market or whatever, those are pretty common manufacturers. So, if something did mess up, you could probably find an independent watchmaker that may be able to repair it. So that's a value add of going with one of those top tier, easily recognizable watch manufacturers. So, just a few things to consider there. Yeah, I want to get some of y'all on a live show, and we'll just really chat watches. I've upgraded the studio, so I've got multiple cameras, and I can bring in live guests with Skype. So you may have seen some other live streams where they use some other tools for live guests. Some of those are really cool, but I'm going to make it really simple just with Skype. How much easier can joining a live stream be than just firing up Skype and connecting? So, it's going to be interesting. But I just really enjoy this. The biggest thing is keeping everything honest, because when you're involved with with watch collecting, there's a lot of bad information out there, and there's a lot of bad information that people are putting together, just to steer people in whatever direction. Maybe they've got low stock of whatever brand, or they've got low stock of whatever reference. So they may try to spruik, whatever brand or reference just, for potential personal gain. My thing with this show, and sure, I want to get super chats. If y'all choose to super chat, that's awesome. If you choose to shop my merch, I've got stickers, I've got shirts, I've got coffee mugs. That is awesome. That supports the channel. Just something as simple as liking this video, sharing with others, subscribing, encouraging everyone to subscribe. That helps as well. Because what I want to do is create something that has not really been created yet. We've seen the channels. There's a lot of great channels out there that talk about wristwatches. But if you look at a lot of those channels seem to be directly associated with whatever store, or directly associated with, insert whatever here. And a lot of those channels, although some of them have really good content, I question how rapidly they've been able to grow. Not just subscribers, but also video views. Yeah, it's great content, but what is the potential behind the scenes marketing budget that some of those channels have? That's why I want this channel to be different. This is just plain old folks talking about wristwatches, talking about why it's good, why it's not good, not trying to doctor anything up. I'm not here to, and I'd like to have a lot of high profile guests in the future, and I'll, wear more than a t-shirt then. But, my goal is just to share that easy to understand and just off the cuff wristwatch knowledge. Nico says, your thoughts on Omega Seamaster Diver 300M Nekton edition. Nekton, let me see. Let me load that up. That's a great question. I don't know if I may have seen it. I just don't know what it is. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Nekton. Interesting. Okay, well, now it doesn't have an aluminum or ceramic bezel. That's an immediate thought. The case size of 42 mil, I think that's acceptable for this piece. It does have a wave pattern dial, which is nice. Again, it's black instead of blue. At least this one I'm looking at is. The clasp looks really nice. The bracelet, again, just a cautionary thing. Just like me, I've got an old school Omega Seamaster 300M that has it was pre-coaxial with blue wave dial, but the bracelet on today's market, that's kind of, something to be aware of. It's kind of dated. Not saying it's not comfortable. It's a very comfortable bracelet, but be aware that probably doesn't taper. I don't think this one tapers, even though it's a more current reference. But a few things I'm not saying be cautious of, but let's see. You're looking at the Necton. If I was you, I would look at the blue dial. If you're wanting something newer, let's see if this one has, let's see. I might would be, if I was looking at the Necton that you mentioned, I might would look at the Seamaster with the blue dial that has a ceramic bezel instead. And it also has an exhibition case back. I might would look at that instead. The only reason being is that it's I think with the Seamaster, I think blue is always going to trump black. The one you linked, it looks great, but I think I would be going more towards the blue, just because if you ever traded or you ever sold in the future, you might find that blue may be more desirable. But I mean, both are great. I mean, you can't go wrong with an Omega Seamaster. The other thing I would say about the Necton that you mentioned, the fact that it has a bezel that's, not blue or black, doesn't have ceramic or aluminum insert, that's probably less desirable than a bezel that's aluminum or ceramic. When you think of Seamaster, you often, you don't think of a bezel like that. So just a few observations I have. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong, but if I was torn between either of those, if I was considering that one, I would consider the other ones for those reasons. Matt says, whereabouts do you live? Love the backdrops that you use. Here's hoping to more opportunities to travel in the next year. I'm all over the place, man. This backdrop, this is actually St. Bart's in the French West Indies. Right down the hill over there is On the Rocks. Really good restaurant. It's at Eden Rock. And then down below there's Sandbar, which is a really good restaurant. Really, really good food. But yeah, man, I'm all over the place. Travel. Yeah, man, travel. I'm ready to do it again too. It's one of those deals without going into all the politics, but it's one of those things I have no desire to go anywhere. And I don't, because it's just so inconvenient. And travel is supposed to be an enjoyable thing, not an inconvenience. And for that reason, I don't want to, I don't want to get on there. Number one, I hate to fly. So if I'm going to get on an airplane, I want to have a drink. Can't wear a drink because you got a mask down across your face. And then you got to deal with all these regulatory things when you hop between one country and the other. And it's a shame. So hopefully they get all this stuff fixed and everything goes back to normal, because I'm ready to get out there and sail the seas, go around, go all over the place. But yeah, there's so many things. And Nico, that's a great question, man. And Omega, the thing about Omega, and by the way, that Necton edition looks really nice. But one that I would encourage you to look at is the Speedmaster Mark II. Now, it's been recently discontinued, but the Omega Speedmaster Mark II with it's kind of got the funky case. Looks weird in photos. You put it on your wrist, it looks awesome. I tried it on in St. Martin. But the Omega Speedmaster Mark II with the orange hands. That is an awesome piece. If you can find that, I would steer you towards that over the Seamaster. You can't go wrong with the Seamaster, though. But you can be a little bit better if you go with one that has a bezel. You know, get one that has an aluminum or a ceramic bezel, and I would probably stick with blue in the Seamaster. If I was buying it. That's just what I would do. The Golden Majestic, are your T-shirts on Amazon available for Euro customers? Actually, they are. So I've got the Irish Guys Adventure Channel's T-shirts, but if you look in this live show that we're on right now, down below the live show, you should see, and I just added all my inventory of Timepieces for Tomorrow merchandise. So I've got T-shirts, I've got stickers, I've got coffee mugs, I've got some other stuff coming soon. But you should see all of that down below this video that's playing. And those are available directly through my YouTube link. Let me load this up and see. Should be directly below. But I do have, to answer your question, this shirt that I have on, this design shirt, I do have on Amazon, and actually I need to add the Timepieces for Tomorrow merchandise on Amazon as well. But the Timepieces for Tomorrow merchandise is available now through the link down below the YouTube video. And that's something I need to work on. What I need to do is embed my merch store more pronounced on my website, timepiecesfortomorrow.com. So I'm going to work on that because I know a lot of people want the merchandise, and that helps me. I mean, number one, it helps to raise awareness, and you might think it looks cool, and it's just a way to thank me for doing these live streams, and I really want to see this community grow, and I appreciate how everyone is so supportive, and we're not getting off topic here. I mean, we're talking about wristwatches, we're keeping things clean for all age groups. That's super important for me. I don't use profanity. Number one, I think it's unprofessional. That's just my opinion. I've grown up in the business world. I've run multiple businesses. I run multiple businesses, and there's no room for profanity within any of those gigs. So I appreciate everyone being respectful and sharing y'all's knowledge, and that means a lot. David says, wow, you are very knowledgeable about watches. How many years of experience do you have? I've been doing it my entire life. So I've probably got, of like hardcore, really nitpicky type knowledge, I would say that's probably 25 years. But I've been involved with wristwatches well over 25 years. So I appreciate that. The Golden Majestic Meatball. I tried purchasing, and Amazon says currently unavailable. We don't know when or if this item will be back in stock. Was that the Irish Guys Adventure Channel T-shirt on Amazon? If it is, they may have supply chain issues. That's a bummer. Let me see. I'm going to search. Yeah, if you just search Amazon for Irish Guys Adventure Channel, you'll see the yacht T-shirt. It's available for men and women in various sizes. Now, it shows, at least mine shows that it's in stock. Oh, well, I haven't added it to the cart to order, but it looks like, let me share this link here to the chat and see if maybe this link will get you to a working link there. Yeah, everything, because of this current situation, man, all the supply chain's been jacked up. Yeah, it comes in other colors. But yeah, try that link that I just posted in the YouTube chat, or again, just go to Amazon and search for Irish Guys Adventure Channel. But I'm going to have the Timepieces for Tomorrow merchandise up. I'm going to add some of those shirts to Amazon, so that'll be a good test to see if you try to purchase one of the Timepieces for Tomorrow shirts, if it'll do the same thing, if it says that it's low stock or out of stock. Yeah, it is interesting. So yeah, that's a great way to support the channel, and of course super chats and becoming a channel member. I tell you, it's awesome to see the Golden Majestic Meatball with that icon beside his name, and that just means he's a channel member. He's become a member of the channel, and that is super appreciated. because I am an independent YouTuber. I'll remain an independent YouTuber. It's your support that enables me to do this stuff. So that's huge. David says, you have many videos on your channel. Why did you decide to start doing live show? Well, decided to start doing the live show because, well, a few things. Traditionally, one of the largest components of my channel has always been travel. But it's an adventure channel. So adventure can be, adventure is somewhat all-encompassing. So I want to explore the adventure of wristwatches in a live show format. And I think a live show format for wristwatches is really cool, as we've seen here, because people have questions. People can share their knowledge, and it's just that community type feel that's unfiltered. I don't have a hidden agenda here to push people to buy a wristwatch at whatever place. That's not my agenda. Now, I am here. I do appreciate super chats. I do appreciate people purchasing the merchandise, becoming channel members, because that helps to support my growth. But, ultimately, it's a great way to bring a sense of newness to the YouTube channel, especially in these times when travel is not as convenient or as exciting as it used to be. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I'm fighting to get out there and do stuff, but I'm not going to drop money to go somewhere and have to, have a non-vacation type experience. I don't want to have to wear a mask and have to prove that I've had a vaccine or didn't have a vaccine and all of that. It's just a pain. So, for that reason, this is a way to have fun, to interact with others, and just, just do something different in lieu of not having, and it's not like when travel bumps back up that I'm going to discontinue this. No. I'm going to continue to do this because I really want to get these live shows to where I've got, a few hundred concurrent live guests. That's where it's going to be really cool. Or live people in the audience, and then, 4 or 5 live guests on Skype, and just really have some fun with it. David says, I see you have many cooking videos. Would you do a cooking live show? That would be very interesting. Yeah, man, I'll do any sort of live show. I'm here to have fun. I'm here for growth. And again, this is one of my businesses. So, I'm here to entertain, maybe provide some educational value, but, ultimately this is one of my businesses. So, I've got to leverage the tools that I have in this uncertain economic climate, and, do whatever I can do to people are watching YouTube now. They have been for a while. I mean, it's no longer a situation where people are watching insert big network here, on traditional television. I mean, most everything shifted to streaming. So, I look forward to looking at the footprint of these live shows here in a few months and in a year, and seeing the growth, because that's what it's all about. I mean, if I wasn't getting the viewer's response, this wouldn't be something I would do, because I'd be wasting my time. But since it seems that this is well perceived, this is awesome. I took the time to design this logo, Timepieces for Tomorrow logo. And, it took some effort hours to get this going. I mean, this was not just a fly-by-night, hey, I'm going to start a new gig. This was, hey, I'm going to put a little bit of time, put a little bit of money into this, and do it right. And that's what I hope is going to turn out of this. So, yeah, this is exciting, and we're almost an hour in. I don't want to stretch these live shows to be too long. And something I do want to do is get get a somewhat predictable, maybe once a week, maybe twice a week live show where we all know when the show should occur. I mean, unless something comes up and, I got to do something. But, for the most part, a predictable schedule for live shows, I think that'll be cool. And just do it right. So any questions y'all have, again, if you want to be considered as a guest on an upcoming show, again, it's just for fun. It's not a paid gig or anything. It's just for fun. If you want to come on and chat watches and whatnot, the email address that I have for that is live show at timepiecesfortomorrow.com. And if you want me to review something, shoot me a message, shoot me an email, review at timepiecesfortomorrow.com, and I'll try to add that to my to-do list for reviewing, a particular wristwatch or wristwatch collection. David says, this is a very bad time for me for a live show. No, I agree. It is for me too. And this won't be the time. I'm thinking probably, David, good point. And typically, and again, I run multiple businesses and I've got multiple concurrent obligations. And this is typically a bad time for me. But because I've kind of shifted some work today, I just tested. So I will probably never or seldom have a live show at this time. I'm probably going to shoot more for, I think, I want to keep West Coast. I think the United States is probably the best target audience to measure it off of. And I want to keep West Coast in mind as well. So I'm almost thinking if I do something maybe 8 p.m. New York City time, maybe if I find a couple of weeknights where I do 8 p.m. New York City time, hopefully that'll be a time where I can get a lot of live interaction. And keep in mind though that after these live shows conclude, and obviously it won't be a real-time chat, but after these live shows conclude, they will appear on timepiecesfortomorrow.com. So you can go to timepiecesfortomorrow.com and you'll be able to find, once it processes, this video previously recorded and all my other live streams. And not just that, but also the Quicker Than Drawing. Hey, Irix. Quicker Than Drawing, welcome. David 1958 says, I'm West Coast. Very cool. Do you think 8 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. New York City time would be a good time for you? Or what do you think? Tell me what you think. 7 p.m. would be perfect. I usually do dinner with my wife at 8. Okay. So you're saying 7 p.m. New York, 7 p.m. Eastern? Oh yeah. No, I understand. I got the same commitment there. See, so if I did these weeknights, okay, maybe I do that. Maybe I do it around 6 or 7 Eastern. And then, and that way I can do my dinner. You can have your dinner. maybe make this live show work for everyone. I think that's a good time. I like that. Yeah, I do like that. And again, as long as I'm getting a bunch of views and a bunch of comments during the live streams and super chats and people checking out the merch and subscribing, becoming a channel member, it's that'll keep me going. Because as long as my time is being compensated and we're all having fun with this, that's what matters. If I did a live stream and 2 people join, it wouldn't be worth my time. I mean, time's money. I mean, just as we know, I mean, everything that we do is everything that we choose to do takes away time, and time is not infinite. So, if this is something that's doing well, which it is so far, episode 2, I'm happy about this. And this is an odd time of day, man. It's 2 p.m. New York City time. So, yeah. So I appreciate everyone tuning in. Again, thanks for the support. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for the channel memberships. Thanks for shopping my merchandise. Most importantly, thank you for subscribing, ringing that bell icon that notifies you whenever I post another video, liking this video, sharing with others, and helping the future live show viewership continue to grow, because I'm going to have a lot more Timepieces for Tomorrow videos. I've got another camera coming in, so we're going to have some really cool, very engaging live streams versus just me sitting here, face on video. And we're going to have guests and all kinds of good stuff. So thank y'all so much. Be safe and stay tuned for the next live stream. And again, I'm going to try to work to get that somewhat consistent schedule. And David's right. Time is infinite, I think. Maybe not for people. Yeah, you're right. Very good point. You caught me on that. Thanks, everyone. Y'all have a good day. Be safe.